If I were to wrap up everything I've learned so far from episode 1 to episode 25, it would be these three things. First of all, the technical side of things. Second, listening. And third, talking. And this is just the first quarter. We've got 3 more quarters to go. It's not even halftime yet. So it's kind of hard to say, like, what have I learned in the first quarter? I'm still figuring it out. I'm still fumbling through this and adjusting. How have I grown talking to all these different people? So from episode 0 to episode 25, the first quarter of this game, it's a lot of adjustment, a lot of adjustments. As you've seen, that the set has adjusted. That's the biggest visual thing. The idea of this channel was to start a podcast and do 100 episodes from the studio build out. So in the first 25 episodes, a lot of what you're going to see is a lot of adjustment time, right? You see the adjustment in the set, the lighting. I think for me, I've learned a lot about lighting as well as shooting compact, shooting for what you need. I have more stuff than I need. I mean, I started with like a aperture 300D in here. That's not the right move. I've scaled down some things. There's still some wrinkles, things that I'm like smoothing out. When Maddie came, he's got a very solid background in lighting for photography. So like the first 10 minutes we were here, we were just talking about the lighting setup, things I could do. So lighting, set design, and then, file management. So every one of these episodes is anywhere from like 150 to sometimes 300 gigabytes, right? And that's depending if I'm doing it 4K or not. Recently, I've sort of dedicated myself to only shooting this in 1080 and delivering it in 1080. So we're still floating close to 200 sometimes, 200 gigabytes of just raw data, right? That's about the average for each episode. So times 25. I mean, I haven't even done the math, but I have gotten a lot better at data storage management and labeling. Another thing I've gotten better at is what this whole purpose is for, which is communicating and relationship building. Everyone who's been here for the first quarter, episode 0 to 25, have been people who I've already known and have already had an existing relationship with, except for, I think, 2. I anticipate I'll be meeting more people for the first time as we move on. But in this first quarter, I have mainly been talking to people I already know. However, this kind of format offers a lot more depth to conversations you have with people you already know, but in a different kind of setting, like in a garage, riding somewhere, in the office, at a party, a dinner, whatever the case. Like these kind of interactions don't offer the kind of depth that a one-on-one does. So I've learned that having a one-on-one alone together in a room, just 2 of you, the kind of depth, concentration, focus, and intention, that changes. And I'm getting better at identifying these kind of moments and also follow-up questions. I'm trying to get better at listening. A lot of us, when we're having a conversation with someone, we're already thinking about what we're going to say, what we're going to respond. We're taking bullet points in our head, almost as if it's a debate, right? Especially for men in couples. I'm guilty of this too, right? You're making bullet points in your head while you're listening of all these rebuttals. There's a version of that going on that I've learned and kind of picked up in this first quarter of sort of putting talking points in the bank based on what I'm hearing. But it's hard to actually stay focused and listen while building that list in your head. And I realize that's a skill. I kind of tap out early, if you will. If someone goes into like a 5-minute segment, I'll forget, or I will consciously make a decision to just let go of that piece I was thinking about or that sparked the interest or I have a follow-up question to. I'll let go of it because I need to focus on what's being said and really internalize and really listen. The bottom line is listening. I think I'm getting a little bit better at that multitasking of listening while also creating a substantial additive response or follow-up. That's one thing. Another thing, I think this is probably the last point for this question. I'm not a musician, but I understand the process of rehearsal before performance. Practice, basically reps. For example, here's a concrete example, Swiss and salad dressing. Some of you know that that's my family's salad dressing business, and I was holding the reins and I was in charge. I was holding the baton for a few years. In that time, I learned a lot about manufacturing and basically consumer packaged goods, CPG. I learned a lot about physical products and I have real life experience working with that and working with people who are way better than me at it. When I am sitting across someone who has a similar experience, I realize that, oh, this is a moment where I want to talk about my experience, where we share an experience here. It's just that with mine, it's about salad dressing. I notice that the more and more I visit that salad dressing subject, I'm better at articulating it, better at marrying sort of these two people's, why it makes sense to even bring it up. So if you're talking about manufacturing THC, CBD gummies at your facility in Michigan, I can relate commercial kitchen work from my experience here in Hawaii through the salad dressing. So finding opportunities where a story I've already covered can add to the conversation, I've realized that I'm getting a little bit better at that. Obviously, I'm nowhere near where I think I should be or what I feel I should be. This is very much a before picture. Here we go. Second question. Hearing all the different perspectives from the guest. Shooting 25 podcast episodes, end of quarter one. Here's what I've noticed about sitting in front of so many different perspectives. Different perspectives from different people is healthy. I feel a lot better. I almost feel like when you go on a new hike, you're seeing new views, maybe of the same island, in my case, Oahu, maybe of the same island, but from different points of view. That's kind of what this feels like. I have a limited view and a limited opinion of the world that we share. So having as many other opinions and views in a very cordial way, non-confrontational, just we're here to communicate, that's refreshing. It feels like working out. It feels like going for a hike. It feels like jumping in the ocean. It's refreshing. A lot of people aren't used to this format of talking. Where we're at on this kind of table right here, yeah, we've done it in a coffee shop, lunch, dinner with mom, pops, your partner, whoever. But when you sit down and there's no waiter coming to take your order and the intention of both people is to talk, this is something I feel is missing just overall in my life, but perhaps in yours as well. This intentional time and space to talk. Not comment, not text, real-time conversation. I feel revived by it, and I notice a lot of my guests have also felt that kind of revival, if you will, of a connection that comes from this very, very old school but kind of new school format of two people sitting down with the intention to talk. This is something I feel a lot of us could use more of as a regular part of your week, in your relationship, in your job, at your hobby or whatever, somewhere in your life, kind of having this time for intentional communication. And here's the thing too, like a lot of times this is where, yeah, I mean, if I think about it, like I don't have my phone. I don't have my phone by me, or I turn it off. I have it in the room, but it's away from me. It's one of the only intentional times where I'm leaving my phone away from me is actually when we're shooting these episodes, which could go for anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, right? That's refreshing. And it's also a focused intention that you're bringing to the conversation, which again, is just not offered at a coffee shop or wherever you're kind of having these sit down talks. Lastly, for the quarter one wrap up, I want to thank you. That's right. I want to thank each and every one of you that when you see me, you say, hey man, I see what you're doing. I like it. Every one of you that I've never met or have yet to meet who are involved, active, engaged, commenting, liking, sharing, all of that really helps. And of course, I want to thank every one of my guests so far. I say my guest is real possessive, but you're not mine. We just shared time together here. And I really appreciate you making the time to come out here. Some of you have even gone on to suggest other people that you know in your spheres that you think might benefit from having a conversation here. That's what it's about. It's really about being an example of a vision that I see. And all that is more people connecting with people they already know. Instead of chasing after podcast guests that you think are gonna substantiate your channel, instead of chasing after clout, instead of chasing after all these other things we see online, instead of that, building from what you have. Building from the relationships you already have, from the people you already know, from the things you're already doing, using that as a base. Building instead of chasing. If you're here along for that ride, watching me build something that hopefully gives you the gas to build whatever you're working on, then thank you. I really appreciate it, and let's go. It's only quarter two.